back to another video of the Life's Playbook podcast. You'll have to excuse the hood being up. It's a little chilly right now in the house. But today I'm decided to do a little follow-up video to Sunday's video. If you didn't catch Sunday's video, it is on the official YouTube page and the official Spotify page. If you didn't catch Sunday's video, I pretty much talked about the college football playoffs for 2024 and 2025. Talked about the seeding, talked about who was in the playoffs. I talked about what I thought. I talked about my thoughts on the seedings, who deserved to be there, who didn't. I talked about some of the teams that were left out. I talked about some teams that I think should have been in. So this video is kind of going to be a continuation of Sunday's video. I'm going to be, instead of, giving my afterthoughts on Sunday's video, I'm going to talk about my predictions. I'm going to give you my predictions for this year's playoffs and who I think is going to be in the national championship game and who I think our 24-25 national champion will be. So let's get into it. Quick recap of the rankings in case you have forgot. We have Oregon at number 1, Georgia at number 2, Boise State at number 3, ASU at Texas at 5, Penn State at 6, 7 Notre Dame, 8 Ohio State, 9 Tennessee, 10 Indiana, 11 SMU, and Clemson is 12. We're going to go round by round, matchup by matchup. I'm going to start on the left side of the bracket. So let's get into it. Starting with Texas and Clemson. First round, I think Texas is going to manhandle Clemson. I don't think Clemson. This is the same Clemson we're used to seeing. In my opinion, they kind of barely scraped in, beating SMU. I think Texas handles business. They're just the better team overall. Better offense, dominant defense, good coaching. I think they move on in the first round to play ASU. Moving up to the top, Ohio State versus Tennessee. As you all know, I am an Ohio State guy. I'm an Ohio State fan. I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible. I do think Ohio State can handle business. If Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and the entire coaching staff doesn't let the Michigan game continue to haunt Ohio State going into the Tennessee game, I think Ohio State stands a good chance to win that game and move on to the second round. I think we have the talent, we have the experience, we have the defense. Number 1 defense in the country, by the way. We have the defense. I think if we don't let that Michigan game haunt us, Ohio State can handle business. I think this is going to be a rather high-scoring game in Ohio State's favor. I think I see Ohio State winning this 35 to maybe 28. Again, that's if the Michigan game doesn't haunt us going into that game. This will be a home game for Ohio State. It will be played at the Shoe, so it's going to be a tough atmosphere for Tennessee. The crowd's going to be into it. There's a lot at stake in this game as far as jobs go and making a national championship run. I think this is the game that Ryan Day bounces back in. I think this is the game that Ohio State uses to push past the Michigan game. And I think this is where we make that statement, we make that run, that we can win big games and we deserve to be in the playoffs. And we are still a national championship caliber team. So I got Ohio State beating Tennessee. And moving on to the second round to play Oregon. Moving on to the right side, first round, Penn State versus SMU. I don't think SMU is going to beat Penn State, as much as I hate to say it. I think Penn State have the experience. They have a good coach and James Franklin. They have an unstoppable defense led by Abdul Carter, who is a projected first-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. It's going to be played in Beaver Stadium, a whiteout game. I don't think SMU is ready for that atmosphere. Give me Penn State. In a rather low-scoring game, I think it's going to be somewhere around the 20-14 Penn State type of game. But I still see Penn State moving on to the second round to take on Boise State. At the top of the bracket, we have Notre Dame at 7 playing Indiana. And I just don't think Indiana is going to make it past Notre Dame. Notre Dame is way too good for them. I don't think Indiana can handle that offense. I don't think they can handle that defense. Notre Dame is just too good. Indiana just doesn't have the experience. I don't think their line is going to be able to keep up with that Notre Dame defensive line. Notre Dame is going to blow out Indiana. and move on to the second round, Georgia. Second round, Texas then would play Arizona State. I think Arizona State had a good run, but I don't think they're going to get past Texas. I think Texas is the better team. They have the experience. I see Texas handling business. I don't think it's going to be a blowout game. I think Texas will keep them in it. It'll be an interesting game for sure, but I think Texas is that team. They just have the experience. Give me Texas over Arizona State to move on to the third round. At the top, we got that rematch, Ohio State, Oregon. I think Ohio State could they could pull it out against Oregon. It's very hard to beat the same team twice in 1 year. Oregon, they have a unstoppable offense. They have a great defense, but I think Ohio State they'll learn from that Oregon game. They'll learn from that Michigan game, and with everything that they have going into that game, I think they could sneak past Oregon in another close game. I think it'll be down to the wire. Maybe a walk-off field goal could win it for them, but I see Ohio State beating Oregon and moving to the third round to play Texas. Moving on to the right side again, I have Boise State and Penn State. I think Boise State beats Penn State. I think this is where Penn State stops. The classic James Franklin can't win a big game comes out, and that's ultimately what will end Penn State's playoff run. I think Boise State, they're not going to blow out Penn State. I think they will do just enough to beat Penn State and handle business. I see them winning 21 to 14, handling business and moving on to the third round. And then there's Georgia and Notre Dame, and I think Georgia is the way better team. They're going to blow out Notre Dame. Better coaching, better all-around defense, better offense. Carson Beck might play that game, although I don't exactly think that's going to matter in Georgia's case. I think they can win with pretty much anyone at the quarterback position. They're going to blow out Notre Dame, and they will advance to the third round. Moving on to the third round, I've got Ohio State versus Texas. This is an interesting game. I think Ohio State has a chance. I think Texas has a chance. These are two very good teams with two very good defenses. I know the defense is going to show up for Ohio State. The question lies in the offense for Ohio State, because if Ohio State's offense gets off to a slow start, that Texas defense, I think, is going to dominate them for the rest of the game, and Texas could ultimately sneak and beat Ohio State and move on to the national championship. And if that was the case, if Ohio State gets off to a hot start, I think we could jump on Texas early. I think this is going to be a close game. It's kind of hard to choose between the two teams because they're both very good, but I think I see Texas ending Ohio State's run simply off of the fact that Ohio State has been known to get off to slow starts, and if the run game doesn't get going for Ohio State, I think Texas is going to just dominate them from there. So give me Texas to stop Ohio State in the third round and move on to the national championship game, where they will inevitably face Georgia, because I got Georgia beating Boise State, manhandling Boise State. I don't think Boise State has the experience to hang with Georgia. I still think Ashton Jeanty is going to have a great game. He's going to solidify his Heisman candidacy. But Georgia, they're just a better team all around. A better passing game, questionable at the quarterback position, better defense. I think that defense is going to shut down Boise State. I got Georgia moving on to the national championship, which brings us to the national championship game. Texas versus Georgia. I think this could be the national championship. The road for Georgia is pretty easy, and the road for Texas is somewhat easy. Again, they have the possibility of having to go through Ohio State and Oregon, but the national championship game, in my eyes, is a third rematch between Texas and Georgia, and I think I finally got Texas winning that. I had Texas winning the SEC championship. They didn't get the job done there, but I think Texas takes in both games into account, and they handle business, and they will be the 24 to 25. They will be the college football 24 to 25 national champions, beating Georgia. Again, there's a lot of different paths for each team to make the national championship. I think Ohio State has a chance to make the national championship, even though I think they might not get past the third round, let alone the second round playing Oregon, because Oregon is a tough team. But there's a lot of paths for these teams to make it. Some teams I think will be first round exits like Indiana, SMU, and Clemson. Some teams I think will make a small run, but the experience just isn't there for certain teams. So I don't think they're gonna. A second round is all they're gonna make, and they'll be done. Oregon has a pretty tough path overall. They have to play possibly Ohio State or Tennessee, despite being the one seed, which is odd because you think being the one seed, you'd get a cream of the crop run to the national championship. Arizona State, they're a good team too, but again, I just don't think they have the experience. I don't think they have the weapons to hang with Texas. Same with Boise State. They ultimately just don't have the weapons to hang with Georgia, is why I don't have them beating Georgia overall. The experience just is there for Georgia. Just an experienced team. They've been in this situation before. I think they'll completely dominate their path to the national championship. I got Georgia as a lock. Right side's a little shaky. I did have Texas getting there again getting to face Georgia in the national championship, but it's tough. It's a tough road for Texas if they ultimately have to play either Ohio State or Oregon, or if they find themselves in a pickle against Arizona State. It's a tough road, but I think they can pull it out. I think their defense is going to show up. I think if Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning, whoever takes the helm at the quarterback position, I think if they get off to a hot start, that offense can be dangerous. I think Texas and Georgia will be the national championship game, and I've got Texas winning it. They take all the experience they've had playing Georgia those past two games in the SEC championship and a couple weeks back playing them. I think they learned from their mistakes from those games, and I think Coach Sark finally capitalizes on the errors and they get the job done, and they are the 24 to 25 football champions. A little side note, some breaking news that's been going on lately this week. Bill Belichick, the former Patriots head coach, seven-time Super Bowl winner, he finalized a deal to be the next University of North Carolina coach. So he will be stepping down from the NFL level to the college level. My thoughts on that is I think he should be coaching in the NFL. Obviously, teams did not want to pick him up. I thought the Bears, given the situation that they're in, or maybe even the Jets, given the situation that they're in, they would pick him up, but they are sticking with the coaches that they have, and Coach Belichick will be the next head coach for the University of North Carolina. Freddie Kitchens is currently the interim head coach at North Carolina right now, and he will be replaced soon. I think it's a little odd that he's coaching college football because college football today is vastly different compared to how it was in the past. Obviously, NIL deals have made a huge impact as to why that is. Transfer portal also is another huge reason as to why it's so different now. You got young kids, young men constantly transferring schools that'll pay out the most money, and I don't know how Bill Belichick is going to handle something like that. He's a seven-time Super Bowl winner in the NFL. I think he'll handle business in the college world, and he can turn that program around. So I just thought I'd bring that up as a sort of breaking news because that's been the talk of the town lately in the sports community, more specifically the college football community and the NFL. But that's my predictions on the college football playoff bracket. Again, I've got Texas and Georgia playing in the national championship. I've got Texas winning it all. I think Penn State's going to make a small run. Ohio State, they could make a big run. And you could make an argument that Ohio State makes it to the national championship. You could make an argument that Texas doesn't make it to the national championship. There's lots of arguments to be made. There's lots of opinions to be made. If you take a deep look at the bracket, you'll see that certain teams have a harder path than others, but that's just my take. I've got Texas facing Georgia and being 2024 to 25 college football champions. Again, This video will be posted on YouTube and it will be posted on Spotify, so feel free to hit those up. Don't forget to check out some of the other videos I have posted. I'll see you guys December 22nd for the first episode. Don't miss that. Till then, I'll see you guys December 22nd. Stay tuned.